Hey guys, Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing my opinion and my thoughts on Ange Postecoglou and whether he should be the manager going forward. Now, just want to say, first of all, I think the delay in it being confirmed is not helping anyone, whether it's Ange or whether it's someone else that comes in. The fact that we're taking so long to make this decision, or what appears like we're taking so long to make this decision, is not going to be beneficial to anyone. We need to, similar to the transfer deals, we need to get all of this done, and we need to get it done early. Far too long do we dally around, whether it be players that we're signing, managers that we're appointing, decisions on futures, whatever that is. We need to be more productive in terms of how quickly we get this sort of stuff done. So I don't think this is helping anyone. As I said, whether Ange is here, whether he's not, whether it's a new person coming in, whatever, decision needs to be made as soon as possible. For me, I think that he will stay in charge, and I think he should stay in charge. Now, I know that's obviously going to be a controversial opinion, and I'm not saying that the people that think Ange should go have got no valid points and that they're completely wrong. If we bring in a level of manager that is superior to Ange Postecoglou in terms of your top target, so obviously there has been rumours whether Inzaghi would be interested in coming over. Now, he is an elite manager, so if you bring in someone like that, I don't feel like you can really argue with it. I think we're obviously deciding that now we are a Champions League club, and we're potentially going to start acting like a Champions League club. If we decide to sack someone like Ange Postecoglou and bring in a manager that, say, finished 11th, 10th, 9th in the Premier League, that for me is not going to be an upgrade. That for me is not all inspiring at all. We are now looking at different calibers of players. We are now looking to bring in, well, we would hope we're looking to bring in top level Champions League quality players. And if you're bringing in managers like Frank, if you're bringing in managers like Marco Silva, for me, it doesn't cut the mustard. They are not going to be someone that players would want to play for in terms of the elite. I think both, more so Frank. I think Frank is a very, very good manager. But I don't think that he's a Champions League quality manager. If we didn't win the Champions League, didn't win Europa League, and we were going to be in no Europe next year, then bringing Frank in to kind of build the building blocks, I will get there eventually. I think would have been a reasonable appointment. I think it would have been a bit of a gamble, but I could understand where it's coming from. But again, we have now won the Europa League. We are in the Champions League, and any manager, if Ange is sacked, any manager that comes in has to bring a sense of competitiveness, a sense of we're going places. And for me, their managers don't do it. Now, Xavi, I think, is probably different. Inzaghi is definitely different. And I'd also probably say Glasner is probably one as well. But there isn't that many options that I can see where you go, that player, that manager is going to come in and take the Champions League by storm, say, for instance. Now, regardless of who the manager is, we need to get the transfers right. We need to upgrade in certain areas because there are a lot of upgrades that need to take place in this club. There are so many places where you look at and you go, whether it be your backup, whether it be your first 11, whatever that may be, there are clear holes in certain places. So for me, it's all about whether we're going to be serious. Because again, if you start bringing in Inzaghi and then you don't bring in the players that are required, again, it's another pointless task that we're just going to kind of go around in circles. You can have an unhappy manager who's going to want to leave because he's going to be basically left with no tools to do the job. So we need to go out and we need to sign serious players. If that doesn't happen, regardless of who's here next year, we're going to fail. We're going to be in dire straits, specifically in the Champions League. But then in the league, we're probably not going to live up to what we would hope would be a decent run in the league next year, after obviously winning the Europa League. For me, there are certain players out there that we should just be going to get. But again, if you don't know who your manager is, and obviously there's still question marks around your director of football as well, it's very, very difficult to go out there and make them signings. And Mbeumo, Eze, today there's been high links with Sane, although that's been counteracted in this afternoon by saying that Bayern Munich have then gone and offered him fresh terms. So is that one we're looking at? Cherki looks like he's on his way to City. But a lot of the rivals are making their moves now, and it seems that we're still deciding on the manager. So we are going to miss the boat with these players. Now, I'm not saying that a Cherky, if Manchester City are going in for them, that we would be the favourites anyway. However, we can't be the club to drag their feet because we are the ones that need to make the ground up. So if we were starting these negotiations as soon as possible, you might get to a stage where you're already in front and everything's agreed before people act. Whereas it's the other way around for us. Liverpool have gone out and what looks like got three players that are probably going to improve their 11. They've just won the league. That is the sort of signings, that is the sort of attitude that we need to have. We had this with the Champions League where we were kind of at a sliding doors moment. We needed to then kick on, and we decided to kind of sit back. This is the second sliding doors moment. We cannot afford to sit back. We have to push ahead because this squad isn't good enough. As I said, there's so many different signings that have been linked to, but until you've done the director of football, until the manager's in, I find it very, very difficult. So I think that with regards to the protests that are taking place, and they're quite rightly taking place, they are all centered around how many cups we have won or how many years it's taken to win one cup, obviously now two. None of them sit there and say, well, we haven't made the top four enough. Well, we haven't made the top six enough. The whole reason to play football is to win a trophy. Now, there are loads of different points that have got us to the Europa League and winning it and the league form and everything else. And there are definitely certain places that the blame for why we're there is with Ange Postecoglou. But there is in every league. There is in every position. There is in every club. Guardiola's made mistakes this year, probably the best manager there ever is. Ferguson has made mistakes. That's what happens, and it's about them growing from that. Now, obviously, the league form's not good enough. I don't know anyone that has said it's good enough, which is what seems to be around. It's not good enough. Finishing 17th next year and getting an FA Cup will not save him from the job. But at this moment in time, as I've said, I think the options now, because we're in the Champions League, the options and caliber of managers needs to increase. We need to be in a better situation at come the start of the season. And if we go to a sort of project manager who's, say, for instance, again, finished their best achievement is finishing in the top 10, albeit with a smaller club, that for me does not instill any sort of confidence. If you're a Leroy Sané and you've got Ange Postecoglou there, who we know is a good talker, has been able to convince players to come to Spurs and get deals over the line, and has just won a Europa League, he is going to have a little bit more a lot more gravitas, in my opinion, than say a Thomas Frank or a Marco Silva. As I say, there is that's up for debate whether people think that's correct or think that's incorrect. It's entirely up to them. However, if an Inzaghi was to come in and have same conversations with a player like Sane, then that's a completely different ball game. So for me, we need to either, if we're bringing someone in, it needs to be a clear upgrade on what we've got. Some people will say any manager is an upgrade on what we've got, but the facts is that he's won us our first trophy in 17 years, our first European trophy in 40 odd years. And no one can say with complete conviction that any of the managers that are currently linked, or again, when I'm talking about your Franks and your Silvers, no one can say with 100% confidence that they would have led us to this trophy win. They might have led us further up the league. They might have been sitting 8th or 7th or anything like that, but they cannot say 100% that they would have taken us to the Europa League final and then obviously got us over the line. I think that the run that everybody's talking about, saying that it's that all of the opponents were terrible. I think that Frankfurt finishing third in the Bundesliga. Bodo Glimt is obviously the one there that you can kind of raise your eyebrows at, despite the fact when we played them, everyone said how difficult it was. But everyone also forgets they did knock out Lazio. So if our run would have been Frankfurt, Lazio, Man United, I don't think as much would have been made about it. And if you go and look at Chelsea's run when they won the 2019 Cup, it was absolutely dreadful. And nobody's ever mentioned that. I've never heard it spoken about because the facts are they won it and that's the end of it. So once again, for me, in summary, basically, I would say I think Ange he's earned the right to stay on next year. That would be that's all we owe him, if you like. I don't think that it should be a case of he should have to stay for another 6 months or 12 months or two. I just think that he's earned the right to go into next year as the Tottenham Hotspur manager. As I said, if we bring in an elite level manager, then I've got no qualms. We're acting a little bit like a big club for a change, and we're going out and saying, look, he's the manager to take us forward. Then I'm absolutely fine with that, but it has to be the right manager. And then again, if we don't go and make the transfers, if we don't go and sign the big players that are needed and fill the holes that are appearing in this squad or have appeared in this squad over the last year, 2 years, then I don't think it matters. It makes absolutely no difference who's in charge. We might become more competitive, say, in the league, but we're not going to go on and win bits and pieces if we don't fill these holes. And then that will, in theory, if we go and sign first team players, that then the first team becomes the sub players, therefore improves the squad depth. So I would be keeping Ange. If Inzaghi's free, then obviously that's a great manager to bring in. But I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are. Rumours are going to be circulating day by day until there is some sort of an official announcement. If Paratici's in, does he fancy Ange? Did he want him in the first place? There is some conflicting views recently saying that maybe he would be happy to have him in as manager. But I guess it's all down to Levy to make that decision. So interested to know what you think. Who would you have as manager? Would you keep Ange? Would you get rid of him? And if he was to go, who would be your number one target? Be great to know. That is it from me. The last thing I have to say is, come on, you Spurs.